Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast. Today we have Casey from Kickflips joining us, Money Twitter's resident sneaker reselling enthusiast. Also, the first one to join in the trend of making his profile picture an attractive female as well, which our buddy Billy has coined that similar term as well. And we can jam on the Twitter growth, some of the more advanced Twitter growth to get into it too on that. But yeah, man, you want to tell us how you got into reselling and all that?
Yeah, man. So it all started kind of around the same time as I was working a summer job. I started working on a farm when I was 11. I'm from like upstate New York, farm country, just outside of Buffalo. And I was saving up. I played like guitar. That was sort of my thing when like in middle school. And I got one. I was looking on Craigslist and I noticed that there was one that I knew like she'd sell for $400 and somebody's asking for $200 for it. So my older brother just drove me out. So I picked up the guitar for $200 and then I just threw it right back on Craigslist for like, it might've been like $350. I just made a quick $150, which was more than I was making in an entire week of working on the farm. So I was like, oh, I guess there's something here that you can just buy stuff off Craigslist and resell it. So I did that for a few years. Then, like I said, kind of middle of nowhere. So my school was 40 minutes away, like a 40-minute drive from where I lived. And my mom worked there. And so we'd get to school at 8. And when I was in high school, basketball practice was at like 8 p.m. and school got out at 3. And she's like, I'm not going to drive 40 minutes home just to have you home for 2 or 3 hours just to drive you back. So you just got to find a way to like kill time or do homework or something. So I just got like my permit. So I would drive around to every like Goodwill, Salvation Army, every thrift store.
Yes, sir.
Trying to find all the, I never got into books really. I didn't know, like that was way better than what I was doing. I was getting like designer clothing. So I was trying to find like Ralph Lauren stuff or whatever that I could find for $2 and then sell it on eBay for like 30 or 40 bucks. And in the grand scheme of things, I wasn't making a whole lot of money, but if I could make an extra, $200 in a week doing that, like for a 16-year-old, that was huge. So that was kind of like the origin story. Just I was, I found out Craigslist was like, and that's gotten to Facebook Marketplace over time. And then I kind of, like a lot of guys on here, started clearing out thrift stores because I knew that I could make money doing that. So that was kind of the origin before things started scaling into, first off RA, and then now I do most of the OA.
Yeah, I mean, starting out, you're never going to make a lot of money, but what's most important is the buy-in, right? Especially being young. The most important thing for you at that time was, okay, this is legitimate. This actually makes money. I could potentially scale this. With that being said, when did you sort of see that scalability in those early months or years kind of going to Goodwills?
Yeah, exactly. And just to touch on that, I completely agree. It's like, at what age do you learn that there does not have to be a correlation between the amount of time that I spend and the amount of money I make, or at least not a direct correlation. And, for us resellers, we all find that out fairly early, or at least, a lot of us did. But I'd say scaling started, I was pretty late to scaling. I'm 24 right now. I was doing the, like Craigslist thrift store, like in-store thing until I was probably, and I still do it, but like only doing that till I was probably like 19 or 20. Then around 20, I started, it was a little bit different. I had a couple of connections because I used to work in like some marketing things where I would just hit up brands for their like B stocks or returns or things like that. So there was a good year or so that I was kind of acting as my own TJ Maxx, and that like helped me scale, where I was just getting like excess inventory or things like that, just through like private placements. But to an extent, you're limited by the connections that you have there. So it was really around, I think, 20 or so that I finally started getting into OA and scaling. And that specifically started off with sneakers, whether that was hitting drops or sort of clearing out things like an East Bay or Nike or Foot Locker, things like that. It was probably around 20 or so that I actually started like, oh, I can just buy things online, sell them back online. It's not like I have to find collectibles or musical instruments on Facebook Marketplace to sell on eBay or things like that. So sneakers, even though they're kind of a smaller percentage of what I do in total, despite like my name and branding and everything online, they're really what got me into, I can just clear out East Bay at 50% off clearance, throw those things on eBay and just keep cycling it. And then that kind of opens up the entire world. So I wonder if I can do it with sneakers, where else can I buy things online and just sell them back online?
Yeah, so what are you mainly doing these days, like platform-wise? I know you talk about several different platforms and then several different types of items as well, but where's your focus currently?
Yeah, so I'm split mainly. The three things that I sell the most, or the three platforms I sell the most on, are going to be Amazon, eBay, and then I do a decent amount of volume through something called like a cash out group, or some people call them buyout groups.
Yeah.
Essentially what they are, if you guys aren't familiar, it's or for those who might not be familiar, there's a lot of companies where their entire business model, they're just like exporting goods and selling them at a markup to like South America or Asia or whatever. And they can only buy so many HP laptops or iPads or stuff like that. And so they'll give you like a small commission if you just buy things and ship them to their warehouses. And that's not like, it's not a big focus of mine. I don't like tweet about it a whole lot. So in terms of profit, it's a small amount, but in terms of, it's basically if I have spare credit lying around, you can make anywhere from like 5 to 10% like instantaneously. So it's not a huge money maker, but it is like a really fast one because it's, hey, we'll give you an extra like 3% if you send this iPad to us, or this HP laptop, and then I'll get 5% back with my Walmart card, another 1% back with Rakuten, stuff like that. So that's like kind of tangential. So I'll send stuff there, but eBay and Amazon are by far my biggest ones. Then you have Poshmark, Reverb's a music one that are count for a much smaller amount.
Yeah. And then is that like OA to prep center, I assume, because you're in a pretty high sales tax state for the most part?
Yeah. So as a general rule, I will OA to prep center most of the things that I'm going to FBA. If I can get a sales tax exemption, or if I'm buying from somewhere that I'm sales tax exempt and it's I'll often ship it to my place and then I'll just prep it myself, or I'll FBM it. Because like a lot of the like higher end electronics that I'm doing, I want those to either like move faster. I don't want to tie up cash flow. So I'm sales tax exempt at a couple places that I'm dropping a lot on like high end electronics. I'll just ship those to myself or my UPS mailbox, and I'll just FBM those myself. But yeah, I have been scaling up. My rep centers in Montana that I use, and so I'll FBA most of that to there, so I don't have to deal with the Austin stuff.
I don't know why. I didn't think you did a lot of Amazon coming into this. I guess maybe I'm reading the wrong tweets, or maybe you don't talk about it as much. But yeah, I totally didn't know that for some reason.
Yeah, so I do. It's probably split between eBay and Amazon. I talk about eBay more just because I'm like you guys do like more volume than I do on Amazon. So it's like I have my own angle, and I'd like to think I can share a good amount, but I'm like, all right, what can I provide in this space that like Miles or like somebody isn't? Like y'all are crushing Amazon. It's like I can share my 2 cents, but at least when I hopped on like money Twitter, I didn't see a whole lot of people talking about Amazon or eBay. And I was like, all right, I think eBay is easier to start with. There's lower barriers to entry. You just want to like dip your toes in the reselling water. And I think everybody should eventually scale over to Amazon. But I was like, all right, I don't see a whole lot of people talking about this. So I just tweet about it more, and I find it more interesting. You flip weirder stuff on eBay, in my opinion, or at least you can.
I'm always interested in sort of like the tactical growth on Amazon. So, as you started to scale your OA side of the Amazon business, what did that look like for you in terms of sourcing capital? How did that growth stage look? Because a lot of people get stuck in sort of like that account reserve cycle of not knowing how to grow, when to buy. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah, great question. I think like we talk about it a lot, where it's like if you're a beginner, your biggest bottleneck is going to be your knowledge, and then as soon as you're past that phase, it's going to be your velocity or like your cash flow and capital. So for scaling, for me, it looked a lot like focusing on faster moving items. I think when I first started off, especially on Amazon, it was like, all right, how can I find that sexy like 156% ROI item? Forget that it might not sell for a few weeks or a month or something like that. And I forget exactly how the math works out, but if you take, I think it might be like over a 2-month period, if you have an 100% ROI item that sells once versus like a 30% ROI item that sells 5 times, you have like 3 times more money.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think one of the biggest things was focusing a little bit more heavily on sales volume. While I still have that like floor, I'm trying to find something at least like 25-30%. But it used to just be like, all right, I have a VA doing some product research for me as well as I will. It's like, all right, cool. How can I just find that? Oh, this one's 200% ROI. Forget that it might sell 12 times a month. So I think it was a very fast conversion to how can I turn over my inventory as quickly as possible was one of the biggest things that helped me scale relatively quickly. Granted, I still have a good amount that I know are, all right, this might take a month or so to sell, but I will get a good ROI. But for the most part, I think it was focusing on faster moving inventory because cash flow is so important, especially as you're smaller.
Yeah. And then how are you guys finding products?
Yeah, it's largely reverse sourcing is one of the biggest ones, just like storefront stocking, things like that. Specifically for things like replens. And then I'm also like a big part of just, I carry this over for sneakers and eBay. I'm like a big, almost like you have to play it right, but like catching the falling knife, where I almost grew a bit on Twitter for being the guy who was able to get like 15 PlayStations a week back when they were like really hard to get. And there's like always products like that. Right now, a lot of it is like higher end electronics or things like that, where it's a lot of times it's still selling like hype products. And I'm just buying really heavy on those, knowing that, all right, the market is, there's sort of an end zone for how long this will be profitable. But if you turn it over quickly enough, you can still make a bag. Like pools were like the OG reselling thing like that, where you had a window where everybody was spending as much as they could, made a ton of money. They're no longer profitable now. But there's plenty of examples like that. So that accounts for a good amount of my sales, as well as just random, really like hype products that are always out of stock, that if you know how to get them, you can make a good amount of money during a certain window of time.
Yeah. And it's interesting how, like, I feel like when I was getting started really with Amazon, like OA, like 2 years ago, no one was talking about replen stuff. And then like a year ago, we were all talking about replens. And now, like, I don't give a shit about it at all. You know what I mean? Like Garrett and I have been doing some of like the bolo-iest bolos as of late. And I think like it's interesting. And I don't know. I mean, there's a variety of people who start this. And I think like getting that proof of concept and the feedback loop as quick as possible is what really allows you to make progress with it. And that's why like some of those like super quick on things like PlayStations, like pools back in the day, some people were able to aggressively start so quick because they got the feedback so quick from that. And sure, right? Did they worry about how scalable driving to the Walmart was? No, but they were previously working for $15 an hour, and that pool made them $100 profit in the hour they went to there. And like, if you're starting this and you're listening, like the stuff you do day one is completely different than what you're going to do on month 6 and month 12 if you execute correctly and stuff, and everything. And just getting the feedback loop as quick as possible. So, and that's why like some of that really hype stuff is fantastic. Like I just saw probably in the last month, there's a viral tweet in reselling Twitter like once every 6 months, and it's like you had to be there, and it's like the pools, the weights, the PlayStation, and it's like you think the reselling community is so small, but then you'll see a tweet go viral and get like 1,000 likes, and it's like pretty funny looking back on it right there. But it yeah, do you like with beginners, do you think they should learn to do OA like a lot of reverse sourcing, or should they look for quick wins immediately with like some of the bolo type items? And you can't say both.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say in order, so I'm not gonna say
that's what I would say too.
Yeah. So I would say the quick wins, mainly because if you're doing replans, if you're like brand new, you haven't already figured out like I got them on the people like either in my group like I talked to, and it's like not only can they not find can't find products, it's like I've never listed an item on Amazon before. I've never gone through the process of getting ungated. I don't know how to fill an order. So if you're able to remove the one variable of not only do I need to figure all these things out, but also, hey, I need to be able to spend time reverse sourcing for products, deal with, not only, look at, okay, this is like has a certain amount of ROI and sells a certain amount of time, but you might get a false positive where it's like, oh, everything looks good, but check the Keepa or check the offer count. Like it might eventually tank, even though there's a good amount of signs. If you can remove that one variable and just be like, guys, like this, like, have you guys been following the whole like Stanley Tumbler thing?
That shit's popping.
Yeah.
Like I think I've 150 to 200 of those in my apartment right now to like prep or whatever. Apparently they're because of TikTok or whatever. And I've been like sending, once again, those are going to probably drop off within 2 months from now. But it's like, if I can just say, hey, go buy this in this colorway and then do all that, like it's going to sell for a profit. So you remove that variable.
Dude, and people like want to make it more complicated and stuff, and it's just not. And like like, we always like mess around with this, but like you tell someone that's been working corporate for like 20 years to buy something and sell it, they're like, oh, like what if it doesn't sell? How am I gonna get it gated? There's like the equation, all the world just pounding them away is convincing them that it's not this easy to make money in some cases. And then you tell a kid who like dropped out of college last week, he's like already there buying it, he's already got it sold, it's already shipping out and everything. It can be so simple in some cases, and you just got to get out of your own head and just do it when it's easy like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think I tweeted that like within the past day or two, which is like, hey, do you want to stay poor? Always look for a reason why it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's a good that shit right now. That's a good tweet. Yeah.
How did your group start? What was the initial idea, the initial origination, and how'd you scale that?
Sure. Yeah. So it started it was sort of the same thing. So I finished, January 2020 is when I started. I was working a job. I finished grad school in December 19, took a job working like investment management. Hated it. By like 10 a.m. the first Monday, I like dead ass had like a piece of paper and a notepad writing like ideas to get out of here. So like the first one, I had otherwise tried to do something online, didn't work out. And I was like, all right, I know reselling or whatever, so I'm going to keep scaling my own. But then as I started scaling my own, not to the point that I could quit my job, but to the point I was like doing all right, like making a few grand a month on the side. People started noticing and were asking like, hey, how can you do this? So I was like, all right, if enough people are asking, maybe there's a market for this. So I started just a free sneaker flipping email newsletter where every day that there were profitable sneakers dropping, or I was able to find some on some sites, it's just, hey, sign up to my email. I'll send you the links to those and either where you can buy them, or if it's like a drop versus Jordans, all the information that you need to know, as well as some tips and tricks to make money off them. And then the way that I was making money then for the first probably 6 to 9 months was just $10 a month. And I'll send you more links, more tips and tricks, extras, stuff like that. I had no idea what Discord or Telegram was. I had no idea what a reselling group was or anything like that. Then it started kind of scaling. And then as I got into that, I got plugged in with Joseph Oliver and Joe Hart. They were both, yeah. So I literally, I probably share this every now and then, but literally it was Joseph Oliver changed my life. I probably sent 100 DMs to people in the reselling space or whatever, just being like, hey, like I made this, you want to check it out, have at it. Happy to give you like the free $10 version if you want to get into flipping sneakers. And Oliver was still a part of PFP at the time. He was like, hey, like, do you want to provide for PFP? I'll talk to Joe Hart. For anybody listening, this is like one of the OG Amazon reselling.
Yeah.
That one's deep, right? How many people are in that group?
A lot. They do a really good job. They've put so many people on in terms of like started with stuff.
Yeah, like I think at one point there were over like 2,000 people. I think things might have like dispersed now that everybody and their mother has a reselling group now. But I know at one point they had like over 2,000 members. Like 50% of Money Twitter came out of there, I'm guessing. Like so many people have some form of affiliation to them. And I was just with Joe and Justin, one of the mods, in Vegas like 4 days ago. Like literally, yeah, nobody can say that.
Oh, I saw a couple pictures about that. Yeah, on the balcony with the robes, that went hard.
Yeah, so we were being absolute douchebags, but it was a really good time. So yeah, nobody can say anything bad about Joe to me. It like literally has put so many people, including me, on the map. But yeah, so I started with them where he basically, Joseph Oliver Flips, said, hey, like, do you want to like join and start helping people make money with this? Because back then it was pretty much all Amazon related. And I was one of the few people doing sneakers and being like, hey guys, like, like PlayStations are dropping at Best Buy in like 2 minutes. And if you buy 3 back then, you just made $1,000, like heads up. So I started doing that for a while, sort of providing for them. And then over time, I started making like some other connections. I have buddies who are like flipping tickets. So like all the things that are kind of like standard in a reselling group, I'm guessing like this already exists in other reselling groups. Like I had no idea. I was kind of bringing hey, we're not just flipping stuff off Amazon. Let's get into eBay flips, these really hype item drops, like get somebody who, like I have a buddy who's like a full-time sports bettor, like call some sports bets, things like that, flip tickets to live events.
You can make a living off of sports betting.
What was that?
You can make a living off of sports betting.
All right, you guys got like 3 minutes for a crazy story. So I know this is like that buddy's buddy. This guy's not as much of a degenerate. There's one guy who racks up over 100,000, lives out of hotels in Vegas, racks up over $100,000 every single week in sports bets, puts them all on his credit cards, and then uses those cards to live out of hotels in Vegas, and they'll just cycle through. He has a part-time meteorologist he keeps on his payroll to tell him how weather trends in each individual city are going to affect the likelihood of any game's outcome. And so he's like, yeah, so I just like get my parents like these like $50,000 vacations twice a year. So that, like my backup plan, if this all like falls off, is I can just move back in with them. This guy would like drive up and down the coast. The crazy story, just like compulsive. He'll stay at a motel. And then the last day he leaves, he'll leave like a $500 tip with a note. He'll be to housekeeping. He'll be like, hey, like give me all of the shampoo and conditioner and body wash you can. Like not like a lot, like give me all of it that you can. And then drive to the next hotel and sell it to them. And he's like, I like really don't make a whole lot of money off it. I just like do it to get my fix. He's like, I might make like $200 just like selling all the stuff the housekeeping ladies give me to the next people. Like that's just like the personality of somebody who like makes a living in sports betting. But yeah, there's people who do it full time.
Yeah, give me all of it.
All of it. And he's like, I see it's like it's a pickup truck, like load they're like, this dude gave me $500. Like, I don't care. I'll give him every box. It's
yeah, I'm sure that's how some people feel looking at like the outside into like how we stuff. Like you have people like in the Philippines that are working for you, said things like that. Like the meteorologist is not an angle I would have thought of for that and everything. But I'm sure there's statistics. I remember one time, I don't know how true this was, but I saw this graph of James Harden's performances in like, I think it was like the top strip club cities in America. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you know, the deeper you get into an industry, the more you get in the weeds like that. And I'm sure on the outside looking in, some people feel that way about like us with like reselling and stuff like that. But yeah, I think talking to you, we definitely understate. We like don't talk about it as much, like how you really should, especially if you're a beginner, be taking advantage of some of those seasonal things, you know, like for example, pools back in the day, weights during the pandemic and stuff like that. Some of these other bolos now, like it's just kind of a no-brainer if you're not, you know, pretty, you know, like let's call it like 10 grand a month profit, I would say is like the really good amount where like you can do what you want pretty much, you know, in many circumstances you can do what you want. You got to be clawing on stuff. Like we got these dudes on Twitter will be like, something's not scalable, and they'll be like working at Arby's and stuff. Like it makes no sense, you know? And such. Like you got to just trade your time for money initially. Like that's what we all do. I like still do a ton of that, you know, because it's like it's what I have to do to try and get what I want, basically, at least materially. And stuff. What do you think is like what should beginners do? Like someone comes to you, zero reselling experience. Are they going eBay immediately? Should they do Amazon as well? What are you kind of thinking they should go with?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of it depends at A, the time they have at their disposal, and B, their goals. Where it's like, hey, I have maybe an extra 2 hours a week. I'd love to make an extra 2 grand a month. Like, and for a lot of people, that's just the goal. It's like, hey, I like my job. I'm not going to quit this to do full time. But like, if I could have an extra $2,000 a month, that would change so many people's lives. Like, all right, if you don't want to get into the whole like Amazon side of things, like you can do that on eBay, no problem. But usually it seems like the more people are interested in Amazon, just because that's what more people are hearing about, and it is more scalable. Like, you know, I think anybody could probably make 5-10 grand a month off eBay if they did this full time. It's tough to make 50 grand off eBay. Just the simple fact of the matter is when Amazon accounts for 50% of all e-commerce related sales, if you have more eyes, you're going to get more buys. So I think the bigger you want to scale and the more time you have at your disposal, the more I would push someone into Amazon. And the more they want to get into the reselling world. Like at the end of the day, there was stuff, I still love eBay, but there were some things when I first got off on Amazon that were sitting for like a month on Amazon, and they like all sold out of my inventory within 3 days on it. Or we're sitting on eBay and I all sold out within like 3 days on Amazon. There's just way more eyes on there. You can get way more buyers there, but it takes a little bit more scaling up. So I'd say I'd probably recommend Amazon to everybody except for the people who are like self-admittedly like, hey, I don't want to put in like a ton of time and effort. Like this is not going to be a main income source for me. How can I just put in a little bit of an effort, you know, learn the basics and make like just get some spending money or pay my rent, pay my car. That's a good eBay fit for someone just because it is easier. eBay just is, there's no gating. It's just simple. It's basically like FBM without gating and smaller fees. But for anybody who like really wants to give this a go, yeah, I think you got to get on Amazon, and I think you want to do it sooner rather than later.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, eBay doesn't have nearly as much data available though when you're making sourcing decisions and buying, correct?
Correct. So yeah, there's no seller amp. Shout out seller amp. Use it. I tell everyone to. There's no seller amp for eBay. Basically, you kind of got to eyeball everything in terms of velocity and pricing. It's pretty easy to do. It's just a workflow of, hey, check recent sold listings, sort by time ending soonest, see how often they're getting sales and at what price they're getting them. But a lot of times, like the hype items that we're doing, a lot of times you're doing pre-sales and stuff like that. So you have to account for people are selling this before they have it in hand. Price might dump off once supply hits the market. It's a lot more back of the napkin math or kind of like accounting for factors. Whereas, oh, just look at the Keep It chart. Here's how much it's selling. Here's the PSR. Cool. It fits my criteria. It doesn't. That's not as much of a thing on eBay.
Yeah, you made such a good point about the self-awareness around what do you want to get out of it. Like so much, I've like kind of put myself like in this echo chamber that like, and I made the mistake definitely even like super recently of assuming that everyone wants to go fully balls deep, which is completely not true. And like I think I've starting to think more and more about kind of like I put a poll out on my YouTube about like what's your goal profit wise for the year, and like the majority of people it was like first sale to like 20 grand, and then it was like the second tier was like 20 to 75. It's like not a ton of people were either late enough into it to look to really go hard, and is a like really good piece, I think, really good nugget there that like anyone listening, you can totally do this part-time, and either way, just trying to make money on your own upgrades your skill set, it upgrades your mindset a ton. And like it's not going to be instant to see results, but like especially over the long term, even part-time, you can do some pretty good stuff. We've had a couple people on the pod who are part-time. They like what they're doing full-time. They like to maybe have more power over it in the future or be able to scale it down if they want to. And that's like a beautiful thing to be able to do. And I think, reselling's being able to go beyond that for all of us, but it can even be, a portion of that equation for a lot of people too.
I think we're also so like mentally fixated and skewed being in our little corner of the internet because it's so normal for people to say, oh, I hate my corporate job. I hate my job. I'm trying to get out. But I think we lose track of just how many people don't mind their job, enjoy their job, like the 9 to 5, don't want the added risk, just want to, clock in, clock out, do their thing. And that's that.
Yeah. Did you guys always know, like, I cannot do a 9 to 5, or do you like kind of like stumble into like, was this always the plan for you guys and just like reselling was the vehicle to do it, or like you guys just stumbled into it and it's like, oh, I can make money doing this? Like, what did that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I didn't resell to make money till like for the first like half decade of it, basically. Like dude, I traded something with a dude online back in 2011. And I traded pretty frequently with people like shipping stuff out, right? Going to the post office, paying for shipping, like Legos for a minute, but it wasn't really to make money. I just liked it, man. I just liked like feeling like I won part of a deal, trying to acquire better stuff, because there's a lot of status in the Lego community around what stuff you have, actually, interestingly enough, like what collectibles you have. So I was just trying to upgrade like stuff based on that. Like I was taking people to school negotiating with stuff back in the day. And then in 2014 I started doing shoes, and then 2018 dude, it's weird, man. Like YouTube algorithm, I guess, started to get really good back then. So I started to get hit by business stuff because I was probably Googling like the value of like Yeezys, different stuff. So I assume like that kind of makes sense how that would start to blend together. And then starting in 2018, I started making like 3-5 grand a month profit, where it's like, okay, like, you might have 15 grand in your bank account at one time. And I like never even considered spending it like on like the dumb shit a lot of college kids would have. I didn't, like, you know what I mean? Like I was never like buying a ton of beer or whatever and stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, I just kind of snowballed it and then started putting the math together, like, okay, I think I'll be able to do this full time. Like I'm starting to see more and more people too, because I'm starting to consume more content. I'm like, damn, like there's all these people doing this other stuff. And then yeah, it was pretty like going on 4 years. Yeah, I mean, I made my first Flips for Miles post this week 4 years ago. So like pretty much since then I've been fully bought in.
Nice. And remind me, how old are you? I know we're all around the same age.
Yeah, so I'm 24 and then you're 26, right? G?
I'm 26, yeah.
26.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what about you, Garrett?
Well, I mean, Miles, yeah, you know my story, but I was working in office corporate finance before COVID. COVID came, and actually coincidentally, as COVID started to pick up, I accepted a new remote position doing more like finance stuff, not really knowing how COVID would come. So in the beginning of COVID, I was just working remote, nothing really changed. But at the time I was waiting tables, I was serving at a restaurant on the weekends. COVID came, shut that down, and all of a sudden my weekends just freed up. And that's kind of where my time soon then was dedicated, right, to learning Amazon, that sort of thing. And then Amazon just started scaling crazy. And I met this dude on social media. We started growing together, and the rest is kind of history. But for me, it was huge in that beginning stage to kind of have that remote position where I wasn't necessarily tied to completely, 9 to 5, whatever. I could work a few hours, go do this, work a few hours, go do this. You know what I'm saying? Like switch back and forth, and that kind of gave me the peace of mind that I can commit time to this, have the my bills paid, because I owned a house at the time, so that was huge for me.
Nice. Yeah, kind of same deal where it's like, dude, like I know that you can't say, but like COVID in terms of career wise is one of the greatest things that ever happened to my career. Cause like if I was still in that office, like I would have just like been burnt out by like everything's like, yeah, I was just working remote. There wasn't a whole lot to do. So I had time to build stuff on the side, scale up everything, and like led to what it is now. It's like wasn't
COVID. COVID will forever have changed my life. Absolutely, no doubt.
Yeah, I saw this thing that I don't remember who said it, but it was like what you do on your weekends is like who you really are, and like I do the exact same thing on the weekends. Like I'm watching business videos all day. I'm always trying to think of new edges and stuff, at least right now. And I think like COVID really gave everyone a lot more time for that time period, and it really exposed like the people who were just watching TikTok, like watched a hell of a lot more TikTok, and they're in a lot of the same places they were. Right. But then the people who are naturally interested in other things or the gym or whatever, like it really just kind of exaggerated that. And then like you just kind of get what you deserve in many cases, right? You get the output of what you put in. And a lot of people ended up drastically, especially in like the money Twitter space. Like everyone glorifies that summer of 2020. But that was when like an entire generation of like Wi-Fi money was born, I would say.
Yeah, I love that line too about the weekends. It's probably same thing as you guys. Like, dude, the amount of times I don't know what day it is, and like it annoys so many people. Like, I don't know what day it is.
Yeah, I used to hate Sundays because it was so slow and stuff. So what I just started to do was schedule a lot of my coaching calls on Sundays, and like the flexibility of being an entrepreneur, like let me do that, right? And that now, like my big off day is Saturday typically, when I like I don't have any calls after 1 p.m. typically on Sundays, like anything to do really. So I end up getting just like clear headspace, which you get when you get a lot of like ideas and stuff. Like I've started to really appreciate even like driving more, because it like it forces me to not have like any stimuli going on. So I always find tons of ideas right there. And then just from a volume perspective, like I've written a daily thread on Twitter for almost 5 months, but like it's crazy how much easier it is to do a daily thread rather than like 3 a week or something, because it's like just saying the same thing over and over. I don't even know how that came up, but yeah, it is so much easier doing it like that.
Well, I mean, same thing with running, training, whatever, lifting weights. If you're doing it every day, you wire your mind to expect that, right? That's your expectation. That's the norm. You almost feel worse if you don't run or don't lift or don't train, whatever, as opposed to if you did. It's weird how our mind just gets fixated into our routines like that.
Yeah. What are PS5 still flipping heavy?
Not really. I run like digitals every now and then. They're more of, like I said, that like cash out group thing where it's, for me, like this is a little bit more like leverage than like a lot of people want to be. And also they don't trust like, oh, I'm just going to ship this to ship 20 grand over to someone and like expect I've never met and expect them to pay me. It's like, all right, when you've been in this game long enough, you understand that that's how money on the internet works. But I'm like, all right, cool. I have an extra like 20K of like credit just lying around. Why not get 5% on it? Because it's going to be like, it's not like I'm waiting for a buyer to buy it. I just have it lined up. So it's like, if I can run anywhere from like 5 to 10%, I might like run stuff to them. Is kind of just how I do with excess credit within reason. It's not like I'm maxing out every single credit card that I have all the time. It's just like, all right, like I could afford to spend 20 grand. I don't want to wait on cash flow. I'll run them there, but I'm not selling them locally a ton, because online after fees are going to get eaten up. And frankly, it's just the margins aren't worth my time anymore to be selling them on like Facebook Marketplace like I did when I was getting like 200, 300 profit a unit. If I'm going to be getting like $50 a unit and I'm going to have to like deal with, hey, do you want to be at the gas station 10 minutes away? Hey, I'm 20 minutes late. They don't show, stuff like that. I'd rather just get a little bit less money and have it instantaneously and ship it elsewhere. So they're dying, but they're not dead. You can still make money on them. And if you want to put in the time, like I said, like that's my example. To somebody else, like, hey, I'm a part-time school teacher. I love it. That's what I want to do. But if I can make an extra $50 an hour, or that might take 30 minutes, so double it, $100 an hour, like that's great money for like most people. Like myself included, like I still like $100 an hour. It's just I don't want to deal with the hassle of everything that comes with it if I can get the same typing from my computer.
Yeah, and then like you're building skills, you're meeting people online. Like there's a lot of like I guess it would say like intangible benefits to that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like if you want to make money with them, you still could on certain variants. I just think that your time is better spent on different items.
Agreed. One, especially once you get it down and then you have those options, like you've done a lot of work to be able to do and such, right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, do you consume like Alex Hormozy's content? Like everybody does?
Yeah.
I love like his line, which is like, and like, I'm not even there yet, but he's like, you can buy the skills it takes to make $1 million a year for like 50 grand.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what a lot of people are like, whether it's like coaching or like a Discord group or anything, it's like, oh, like, I don't want to spend like, oh, what if I spend $30 a month? Or what if I like book a call, it doesn't work out? It's like, just pick, like, did you buy a college degree? Like I've gotten so much more value from DMs that I've sent with like guys in this space than I got from almost every course that
except the one on Microsoft Excel.
Yeah.
Dude,
Excel
being able to do like Excel is fun, dude. Like you know, basic formulas like subtraction, multiplication.
Yeah.
Like most people don't know how to do that, I don't think. Right? Like if you're listening to this and you don't know how to do basic formulas in Google Sheets, it's like I'd say it's one of the things I do the most. I would say in terms of like just overall, like, because a lot of it's numbers, you know, a lot of like what we do is numbers based, but it's not like even recent, like investing, understanding compound interest, like being able to do basic formulas in Excel is fire. That was a wildly helpful thing.
I've even used VLOOKUP several times in Amazon for a random. What's up?
What's that?
It's like when you're searching a column for a specific number and then you return
yeah.
It's like Control F on steroids.
Yep.
Dude, speaking of that, what's the extension where you can where it undoes something in like Microsoft Word?
Undoes, like Control Z?
Yes, that. I remember I deleted like an 11-page paper by accident and never got it back because at the time I didn't know how to do it. Yeah, I still, for some reason, I like, there's been a few like major things that have happened to me like that for some reason I was just like so like nonchalant about it, just like dealt with basically. But I don't know. I guess that's how these days and stuff. Okay, so why did you change your profile picture to a girl?
All right, yes, I'll get into it. So it happened in October. I tweeted out. So my big goal, I got on Twitter in when did I get on Twitter? I think August of 21. I think I got on Twitter August of 21. So I think I might have started and then it was just like grinding. So I think at the start of 2022, I had like 2,000 followers or whatever. Was trying to grow there and like we're seeing good growth. Same thing. It's just threads, connecting with people. And then I like the same things. I saw two like things within the same like 2 days or so. I saw one guy, not related to reselling at all, like just like tweeted out like, hey, I bet I get more engagement if I did this. Then do you guys listen to My First Million?
Oh yeah, man.
So they had, thankfully forget her name. They had on some big, I don't know if she's like a porn star, like an OnlyFans girl or whatever, but like one of the biggest ones, I guess. And she like, one of like just the comments she made, and she was making like millions a year apparently, but like one like aside that she made was like, yeah, so like as soon as I got on like Twitter and social media, like I started like tweeting business stuff because like if some guy tweeted this, nobody would care, but here's like some hot girl and now everybody thinks I'm a genius and incredible. And I was like, I wonder if I tweeted this out in like October, I was like 20 likes and I'll change my profile pic to a girl and tweet the exact same things I've been tweeting for a year. Got like a bunch of likes. Like I was very upfront with this too. It's like everybody who knew me like knew what was happening. But basically it was just like I went through like Hype Fury or Twitter advanced search, and all I did for the entire month of November was I paid for like $3 for an Adobe like license. I was just like, all right, just in the off chance this girl finds me and like wants to sue me or whatever, I'll just pay the $3. So I just like look up cute girl on Adobe stock images. I download like this picture, like some cute girl taking a selfie. And then I just copy paste all of the, like not all the tweets, but like a bunch of the same tweets I've tweeted over the past year that got like decent, but not a bunch of engagement. And like they get way more engagement. And I have one go viral. It got 4 million views in 24 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah. And I'm like,
didn't Lenny do the same thing? Do you know Lenny?
Yeah. Lenny did it. I know. Is it Billy? That's his name, right?
Billy, that's our guy.
Yeah.
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 So
I
he
know.
he also doubled down on tweeting, but he's grown a lot too. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, he's popped off ever since he did that. So I was like, I did that back in, I think it was November. So it's like I had a bunch. I don't know how much of it is me being a girl the entire time versus that one tweet that went viral. And like people started clipping it to TikTok. There's a TikTok with like 5 million views. There's just that tweet with music on it and stuff like that.
What was the tweet?
The tweet it was something to the extent of let me just look here. I'll just go on advanced search so I can just read it real quick so I'm not messing it up. Basically, like, and people think this was like fake and I was engagement farming. And this is actually real. Let me see if I can find it. All right, here it is. My dad is the CEO of a small business, makes around $500,000 a year. But when he started at the company, he was making about $12,000 a year. He told me the money is nice, but my fondest memories are of your mother and I counting our spare change to see if we could afford a pizza on a Friday night. Which is like, it actually happened, but just like, it got a lot of just like hate quote tweets, which caused like half of the people were like, oh, that's
beautiful. That shit's
yeah.
Wait, that's like your story actually, or?
That's my dad. Yeah. So he took a job at like a small community bank in like our like rural town, making like 12 grand a year back in the 80s. And now he's the CEO. It's only a job he's ever worked his whole life. But yeah, he makes good money now. But he was like, yeah, I still remember like when I started the job, I was making 12K. Like your mom and I would like count our spare change. Maybe we could buy a pizza every other Friday.
Yeah, part of that stuff's definitely a meme, like the glorifying the early days, but part of it's true, dude, you know, because like a lot of people, especially those of us that started young, we weren't doing it to make money, you know, like it was just like, well, like I said, what you did on the weekends and stuff. So naturally you liked it. So of course you glorified stuff you used to like that now, you know, a little bit more serious, high stakes, you know, you feel a little bit more obligated to do, right? Different stuff like that. That's a vibe. Yeah. And then so that went like, how many likes is 4 million impressions? Probably several thousand, right?
Yeah, God, I think just shy of 50,000 likes. It got a little over 3,000 retweets, a ton of quote tweets. Cause like like what really popped off the engagement was the like half the people were like, oh, this is beautiful. Like, oh, they don't make women like this anymore. You got a ton of that. But also it was a lot of it was just also like, I'll take things that never happened for $200, Alec. Or
yeah,
like,
dude, bro, people
hating
are
on the like glorifying it. And I was like, that was my comment, like the last 6 months that I worked at that job while I was trying to like build this, like I was sleeping on a couch in a 1-bedroom apartment with a roommate. My roommate got the 1 bed. Yeah. So it's like, obviously I wouldn't go back to that, but it's still like, I don't know, looking back, that's a good memory to me. It's like, I don't want to be sleeping on a couch again, but like, I have like a fond memory of that time in my life because it's like part of what led me here.
Yeah.
Miles knows this. I was sleeping in a warehouse for like 8 months ago.
That was lit, bro. That I actually did like that. Yeah, it was hot in the summer, but that's a good story.
So hot.
Oh my gosh, man. I mean, I don't even know if we have pictures of it, but yeah, like never get a warehouse that's like an hour away from you. Anyone listening. Have a good time and
never.
And everything. Cool. All right. Thanks for coming on, man. I think that's probably one of my favorite conversations as the last couple of months. It's just such good banter like the whole time, basically. So thank you we got to talk more, man. I didn't really know what to expect. You got to get on fucking video, dude.
You do.
Yeah, you got to get on video, dude. Your like camera presence is so good.
Hey, thanks. I'll try. I think it's just good lights, the overhead lighting in here.
No. Personality, I mean, you know, like even though people might be disappointed you're not a female. It's good.
I was about to say, I don't think I'm as pretty as most people were hoping for over the past few months. If they followed me since November. But do you know, it's Decade Investor. I mixed up Decade Investor and Dividend Hero. I think his name's
Tom. Those are my guys. Both of them are my guys. Yeah.
Okay. One of them I was talking to and he was like, dude, you got to get on YouTube. Is that the play?
I think start with just documenting stuff. Like, dude, if you like were posting some stuff like bantering with like just finesse like some person on Facebook Marketplace with a PS5 or something, like there's a ton of like banter with reselling, especially like sneaker Twitter has a lot. It would do well. Start out just like here and there, just mix it in, and then you'll see people like it a lot more because no one does it. So naturally, like unique edge.
Just see what I can finesse. Kind of just be like an F-boy making money online. See what I can find.
Like showing stuff, you know, like this was good, this wasn't good. Like here's a funny story. Like if you posted like reading the replies to that viral tweet or something, that'd be pretty funny too. Cool. All right, where can people find you?
Right on. So yeah, basically the big one is Twitter. Follow me at it's just at kickflips with an underscore. Same username on Instagram as well. Basically posting reels there every day, which is, you can use those as leads as well, showing how you can buy something, turn it into more money. So Twitter and Instagram both are just kickflips with an underscore.
Cool. All right. Thanks, man. I'm about to follow you on Instagram too.
Dude, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. That was fantastic. Take it easy, okay?
Fun, all right,
cool.
you too.
Thanks to everyone who listened as well. Cool. All right. See you later, guys.
All right, see you guys.